The monitoring station Sentinel-7 floated silently in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, its massive solar arrays catching the weak sunlight. Inside the cramped control room, Lieutenant Kim Tae-ho stretched his tired muscles and rubbed his eyes. Another 12-hour shift scanning empty space for threats that never came. He'd been doing this job for 3 years now, watching the same boring readouts, tracking asteroids and space debris. His wife back on Earth always asked if he'd found any aliens yet, and he'd laugh it off. Space was big and empty. Humans were probably alone. That's when everything changed. His console suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree. Red lights flashed everywhere, and alarms started screaming. Tae-ho nearly fell out of his chair, his coffee mug crashing to the floor. "What the hell?" he muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. The signal was coming from deep space, beyond anything they'd ever detected before. But this wasn't natural. This was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent. "Commander Park," he shouted across the station. "Commander Park, get over here right now!" Commander Park Dayoon was in the middle of her daily fitness routine when she heard Tae-ho's panicked voice. She'd served in 3 wars and commanded this station for 5 years. But she'd never heard that tone from her usually calm lieutenant. She grabbed a towel and ran toward the control room, her military boots clanging against the metal corridor. "What's the situation, Lieutenant?" she asked, but one look at his face told her this was serious. "Commander, I think we just received our first alien transmission," Tae-ho said quietly. His voice shaking slightly, Park Dayoon felt her heart skip a beat. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, showing wave patterns unlike anything in their databases. The signal was weak but constant, repeating every 30 seconds. Strange symbols scrolled across the bottom of the screen, and underneath, their computer was trying to make sense of it. Then they heard the voice. It was definitely not human. The tone was melodic, but filled with desperation, like someone singing a funeral song. Even without understanding the words, both humans could feel the sadness and fear in it. Asterisk greetings to any who hear this transmission. We are the Velothi of the 4th world in your star charts, what you call Kepler-4 for to be. Civilization is ending. A plague of madness consumes our people. We turn on each other, forgetting love, knowing only violence. We broadcast this message not seeking rescue, for we know none exists, but so the universe might remember that we once lived in peace. Asterisk. The computer's translation appeared on screen in real time, each word making Park Dayoon's blood run colder. Any species receiving this, we beg you, do not come to our world. The madness is spreading beyond our people. Our beautiful cities burn. Our children no longer recognize their parents. We estimate complete population collapse within your time measurement of 6 months. This transmission will repeat until our power fails. May the stars remember the Velothi sang once of beauty and harmony. Asterisk. Tae-ho stared at the screen, his mouth hanging open. "Commander, they're dying. An entire alien civilization is dying, and they're telling us not to help them." Park Dayoon had seen plenty of death in her military career, but this was different. These weren't enemy soldiers or casualties of war. These were innocent beings facing extinction, and they were so hopeless they were warning others to stay away. "Dr. Lee," she called into her communicator. "Report to the control room immediately. Bring your xenolinguistics equipment." Dr. Lee Min-ho arrived within minutes, still wearing his pajamas. As the station's resident expert on theoretical alien languages, he'd spent years preparing for this moment, but he'd never really believed it would happen. "Is this real?" he asked, looking at the scrolling alien text. "As real as we can determine, Park," Dayoon replied.
No.
"Can you verify the translation?" Lee Min-ho plugged his portable analysis unit into the main computer and started running advanced linguistic algorithms. His hands shook as he worked. This was the discovery every xenolinguist dreamed of. "The translation matrix is holding steady," he said after several minutes. "The language structure is completely foreign, but their mathematics and star references check out perfectly. Commander, this is genuine first contact, and they're begging us not to make contact back." The 3 humans stood in silence, listening to the alien voice repeat its desperate message. Outside their small station, Earth was going about its normal day, completely unaware that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. "How far away are they?" Park Dayun asked. Tay-Ho checked his calculations twice. Kepler-4 for Tubi is approximately 1,200 light-years from Earth. "But Commander, with our fastest ships, it would take us nearly 3 months to reach them using our new hyperspace drives." 3 months, she repeated quietly. "And they estimate 6 months until complete collapse." Dr. Lee Min-ho looked up from his console. "Commander, there's something else. The signal's getting weaker. Their power systems are failing. This might be our only chance to study an alien language." Park Do-yoon closed her eyes and took a deep breath. 43 years of military service, she'd made countless difficult decisions, but none like this. An alien species was dying, and they were specifically warning humanity not to try to help. But humans had never been good at following warnings. "Patch me through to Earth Command," she ordered. "Priority Alpha classification. We need to speak with the President immediately." As Tae-ho opened the communication channel to Earth, the alien voice continued its sad song across the void. Velothi didn't know it yet, but their message had just reached the one species in the galaxy too, stubborn to let others die alone. History was about to change forever. The United Nations building in Geneva had never seen anything like this. World leaders, military commanders, and scientists filled the emergency chamber at 3 in the morning, all staring at the massive screens displaying the Velothi transmission. The alien voice played on repeat, its haunting melody filling the room with desperation. President Williams sat at the head of the table, dark circles under his eyes. He'd been awake for 24 hours straight since the signal reached Earth. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're facing humanity's first contact with an alien species, and they're dying. Question is, what do we do about it?" General Morrison, a grizzled veteran of multiple conflicts, stood up immediately. "Mr. President, with all due respect, this could be a trap. We don't know anything about these Velothi. For all we know, this plague story is fake, and they're luring us into an ambush." "An ambush?" Dr. Yoon Gi-woo couldn't contain herself anymore. She jumped up from her seat, her lab coat still wrinkled from the emergency flight from Seoul. "General, did you listen to that transmission? Those beings are terrified, dying, and begging us not to come. What kind of trap warns away its victims?" The room erupted in arguments. Politicians worried about the cost and risk. Military leaders debated potential threats. Scientists argued about the opportunity to study alien life. But through it all, the Velothi voice continued its sad song, counting down to extinction. Dr. Yoon slammed her hand on the conference table so hard that water glasses jumped. The room fell silent. "While we sit here debating, they die," she shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "I've analyzed their transmission for 16 hours straight. The Velothi plague attacks neural pathways. Their brains are literally rewiring themselves from peaceful to violent. They're losing their minds, becoming monsters, and killing each other." She pulled up holographic displays, showing her analysis. "Look at this neural pattern data they included in their message. It's a cry for help disguised as a warning. Want to be saved, but they've given up hope because they think no one can survive their world." Captain Choi Hyun-sik had been quietly listening from the back of the room. As commander of Earth's newest experimental vessel, he'd been called in to assess the mission's feasibility. Now, he stepped forward, his military bearing commanding attention. "My ship, the Pioneer's Hope, can reach Kepler-4 to be in 3 months. Using our prototype hyperspace drive," he announced calmly. "I volunteer to lead a rescue mission." The room exploded again. General Morrison shot to his feet. "Captain, that's suicide. We know nothing about alien diseases, alien environments, or alien threats. You'd be flying blind into potentially hostile territory." "With respect, General," Captain Choi replied, "isn't that what explorers have always done? Columbus didn't know what he'd find across the ocean, or astronauts didn't know what they'd find on the moon. Every major step forward in human history has required someone willing to leap into the unknown." Dr. Kong Vijin, who'd been frantically working on her tablet during the debate, suddenly stood up. As Earth's leading expert on infectious diseases, her opinion carried massive weight. I've been running simulations on the Velothi plague data. Captain Choi is right, we need to go. But not for the reasons you think. She activated her own holographic display, showing complex biological models. The Velothi evolved on a peaceful world. Their immune systems developed to fight natural diseases, not biological weapons, but humans. We evolved on what the galaxy would consider a death world. Earth threw everything at us: plagues, predators, climate disasters, ice ages. Our biological immunity systems are incredibly robust. President Williams leaned forward. You're saying we might be naturally immune to their plague? I'm saying our immune systems evolved to handle anything Earth could throw at us, and Earth is nastier than most worlds in the galaxy. We might be the only species that could survive on their infected planet long enough to help them. The room buzzed with excitement and fear. The implications were staggering. Humanity's harsh evolutionary history might be exactly what was needed to save an alien civilization. Dr. Yoon nodded vigorously. That's exactly right. What makes us dangerous in galactic terms, our aggression, our adaptability, our survival instincts. Those are exactly the traits needed to survive a plague world and develop a cure. Captain Choi looked around the room. So who's coming with me? Dr. Yoon stepped forward immediately. I am. If we're going to save them, we'll need a xenobiologist who understands both human and alien physiology. Dr. Kong Dejin joined her. And you'll need someone who specializes in infectious diseases. If their plague is as dangerous as it sounds, medical expertise will be crucial. From the military section, Sergeant Han So-young stood up. The tough combat medic had served in 3 war zones and earned more medals than she could count. You'll need military medical support. I volunteer. Finally, Corporal Zhang Dehayan raised his hand. The young engineer had designed most of the Pioneer's hopes, systems himself. Someone needs to keep the ship running in alien conditions. Count me in. General Morrison shook his head. 5 people against an alien apocalypse. This is insane. Maybe, Captain Choi replied with a slight smile. But humanity has always been a little insane. That's how we survived long enough to reach for the stars. President Williams looked around the room at the faces of world leaders, all wrestling with the same impossible decision. The Velothi are dying. They've given up hope. They're broadcasting their final goodbye to the universe. But they reached us, the one species crazy enough to fly into hell to help strangers. Stood up slowly. I'm authorizing the mission. May God help us all. Within 6 hours, the volunteer crew had assembled at the Luna spaceport. The Pioneer's Hope sat gleaming under the artificial lights, her hull packed with medical supplies, research equipment, and enough firepower to fight their way out of trouble if necessary. Captain Choi stood before his crew as they prepared to board. We're about to become the first humans to meet an alien species, and we're doing it on a plague world where everyone's gone insane. Any second thoughts? What? Sergeant Han So-young checked her medical kit one more time. Captain, if those aliens wanted us dead, they wouldn't have warned us away. They're scared, sick, and dying. Someone needs to help them. Corporal Zhang Dehain powered up the ship's systems. Besides, we're humans. Flying into impossible situations is what we do best. As the Pioneer's Hope lifted off from Luna and engaged its hyperspace drive, Earth watched their 5 representatives disappear into the void. They carried humanity's hopes, fears, and stubborn refusal to let others suffer alone. 3 months to reach an alien world. 6 months before the Velothi civilization collapsed completely. The race to save an entire species had begun. 3 months of hyperspace travel had passed in a blur of preparation and worry. The crew of the Pioneer's Hope had studied every piece of data about the Velothi, practiced medical procedures, and prepared for the worst. But nothing could have prepared them for what they saw when they dropped out of hyperspace above Kepler 442b. Hyperspace disengagement complete, announced Corporal Zhang Dehayan from the engineering station. We're in the Kepler 442 system. Approaching the 4th planet, Captain Choi Hyun-sik leaned forward in his command chair as the main view screen flickered to life. What appeared before them made his blood freeze. Sweet Mother of God, whispered Zhang Dayan, his voice barely audible. What happened to this place? The planet before them looked like a vision of hell. Should have been a beautiful blue-green world was now a swirling mass of unnatural colors. Violent storms raged across the surface in perfect geometric patterns, as if the weather itself had gone insane. Lightning flashed in impossible shades of purple and green, creating a deadly light show that hurt to look at. Dr. Yoon Gi-woo activated her scientific scanners, her hands trembling slightly. The atmospheric readings are ... wrong. The chemical composition keeps changing. It's like the planet itself is sick. Through the toxic clouds, they could see the remains of what had once been a magnificent civilization. Massive crystal cities lay broken and twisted, their beautiful spires now jagged weapons pointing at the sky. Geometric burn patterns scarred the landscape, showing where the infected Valathi had systematically destroyed their own world. Those aren't random fires, observed Dr. Kang Lejin, studying the destruction patterns on her medical scanner. The infected are burning their cities in organized patterns. The plague isn't just making them violent, it's making them strategically destructive. Sergeant Han So-young checked her weapon systems one more time. Captain, I'm reading massive heat signatures down there? Thousands of them, moving in coordinated groups. Whatever's left of the Valathi population, they're not acting like peaceful beings anymore. Captain Choi took a deep breath and activated the communication array. His voice echoed through the ship as he broadcast toward the dying world. Survivors, this is the human vessel, Pioneer's Hope. We received your distress call 3 months ago. We're here to help. Silence stretched across space like a physical weight. The only sounds were the ship's humming systems and the crew's nervous breathing. Minutes passed with no response. Then, finally, a weak voice crackled through the speakers. The translation software struggled to process the alien language, but the desperation came through clearly. *humans. From the third planet of Sol? The death world Terra? This is impossible. You should not have come. You will die here. The madness takes all who breathe our air. Even we who remain are slowly succumbing. Dr. Yoon leaned toward the microphone, her voice gentle but determined. We understand the risk, but we're different from other species. Our biology evolved under harsh conditions. We've survived ice, ages, plagues, and disasters that would destroy most civilizations. Please, let us try to help you. A longer pause, then the voice returned, slightly stronger. I am Scientist Velther of the Northern Research Collective. You speak truly. Your species evolved on a world we consider uninhabitable. Perhaps your death world adaptations might protect you, but I cannot guarantee your safety. We don't need guarantees, Captain Choi replied firmly. We need coordinates. Where are your survivors? His voice shook with something that might have been hope. There is one sanctuary remaining. Deep beneath the crystal city of Thalamore, we have sealed ourselves in the ancient underground research complex. 3,000 of us remain from our original population of 2 billion. The entrance is heavily defended by automated systems. But ... The transmission suddenly filled with terrible sounds, screaming, explosions, and something that sounded like breaking glass. When Velthar's voice returned, it was panicked. They have found us again? The infected breach our outer defenses? We cannot hold them much longer. Dr. Kang Vajin grabbed the microphone. Velthar, we're coming down now. Hold your position. We're bringing medical supplies and weapons. No, you do not understand. The infected were once our people, our families, our children. The plague turns them into creatures of pure rage. They feel no pain, show no mercy, and their only drive is to destroy everything they once loved. They hunt in packs now, using tactics we taught them when they were still sane. Captain Choi was already plotting their descent course. Jung, prepare the atmospheric entry sequence. Han, arm all defensive systems. We're going in hot. As the Pioneer's Hope descended through the toxic atmosphere, warning alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The outside hull temperature, skyrocketed as they passed through layers of caustic clouds that would have melted most spacecraft. "Hull integrity holding," reported Jang Daehan, sweat beading on his forehead as he monitored the ship's systems. "But whatever's in this atmosphere is trying to eat through our protective coating." Through the view screen, they could see the surface approaching rapidly. The crystal city of Thalamore spread out below them like a broken jewel. It's once magnificent. Towers now twisted into nightmarish shapes. Movement flickered between the ruined buildings. Groups of creatures that had once been peaceful Velothi, now transformed into something terrible. "Landing zone coming up," announced Captain Choi. Right in the middle of what looks like a war zone, Sergeant Han So-young studied the tactical display, her military training analyzing the threats below. "Captain, I count at least 200 infected Velothi surrounding the underground entrance. They're not wandering randomly, they're laying siege to the survivors." As they touched down, the ship's sensors went crazy. Dozens of creatures immediately surrounded the Pioneer's Hope, clawing at the hull with desperate fury. Through the external cameras, the crew got their first look at what the plague had done to the Velothi. They had once been beautiful beings, tall, graceful, with crystalline skin that caught and reflected light like living prisms. Now they were twisted mockeries of their former selves. Their crystal skin had turned black and jagged. Their elegant limbs were now clawed weapons, and their eyes burned with mindless hatred. "They're not just infected," whispered Dr. Yoon, studying the creatures on the monitor. "The plague has physically transformed them. This isn't just a mental disease, it's rewriting their entire biology." Captain Choi stood up and checked his sidearm. "All right, people, we came here to save lives, and that's what we're going to do." The underground entrance is 200 meters from our position, through hostile territory. Sergeant Han So-young loaded her assault rifle and checked her medical supplies. "Standard formation. I'll take point. You follow my lead. Remember, these things used to be people, but they're not anymore. They'll kill us without hesitation if we give them the chance." Dr. Kang Lejin sealed her portable laboratory into a protective case. "The important thing is reaching the survivors. If we can analyze their blood samples and study the plague up close, we might be able to develop a cure." The ship's airlock hissed open, and Earth's first contact team stepped onto an alien world. The air was thick and toxic, burning their lungs despite their breathing apparatus. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's, and the ground beneath their feet was covered in a black substance that might have once been vegetation. Immediately, the infected Velothi attacked. They moved within human speed and coordination, their clawed hands reaching for the humans with deadly precision. But the humans were ready. Months of preparation on Earth's toughest military training grounds had prepared them for this moment. Sergeant Han So-young's rifle barked, dropping the first attacker. Captain Choi's sidearm took down 2 more. The creatures kept coming, but the humans moved with the deadly efficiency that had made them the dominant species on their own death world. "Move, move, move, move," shouted Han So-young, laying down covering fire as the team fought their way toward the underground entrance. "These things are fast, but they're not tactical. Keep together and watch your 6. What should have been a 2-minute walk became a running battle through the ruins of an alien city. The humans' Deathworlder reflexes and military training kept them alive where others would have fallen. But they could feel the weight of the planet trying to kill them with every breath. Finally, they reached the entrance to the underground complex, a massive crystal door sealed tight against the surface world. As they approached, the door began to glow, and Velthar's voice echoed from hidden speakers. "Humans. You survived the surface. Quickly, the door will open for 30 seconds only." The crystal door split apart, revealing a tunnel leading down into safety. Behind them, more infected Velothi poured out of the ruined city, or inhuman screams echoing across the wasteland. The 5 humans dove through the entrance just as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing them inside the last sanctuary of a dying civilization. They had made it to the Velothi survivors. Now the real work could begin. The crystal door sealed shut behind them with a sound like breaking glass. And the 5 humans found themselves in a dimly lit tunnel that stretched deep into the planet's core. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows. On the walls and the air smelled of fear and desperation. This way, quickly came Velthor's voice through hidden speakers. Asterisk, the infected sometimes find ways to breach our outer defenses. You are not safe until you reach the central sanctuary. Asterisk, as they walked deeper underground. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern that took their breath away. The surviving Velothi had built their last refuge inside what looked like a natural crystal cathedral. Beautiful formations jutted from the ceiling and walls, glowing with soft bioluminescent light. But the beauty was overshadowed by the fear. Thousands of Velothi huddled in small groups throughout the cavern, their crystalline bodies dim with terror. When they saw the humans enter, a wave of panic swept through the crowd.
These beings had
Never seen anything like the 5 earth creatures walking among them. Deathworlders, whispered one Velothi, its crystal skin flickering with terrified colors. They are the violent ones from the burning planet. Dr. Yunji Wu stepped forward, slowly, her hands visible and empty. We're here to help, she said softly, hoping the translation devices would carry her peaceful intention. From the crowd emerged a figure that commanded immediate attention. Veltor was tall, even by Velothi standards, with crystal skin that had been breathtakingly beautiful under normal circumstances. But fear had dimmed its natural glow, and stress had created dark fractures along its limbs. I am Velthor, chief researcher of the Northern Collective, the alien said, its voice like singing crystal. Asterisk, forgive our fear. We have studied your species from afar. You are warriors born from a world of constant conflict. We were, a people of peace. Asterisk, Captain Choi Hyensik removed his helmet, showing his human face to build trust. We understand your fear, but we didn't come here to hurt anyone. We came because your people were dying, and no one else answered your call. Velthor led them to a makeshift laboratory set up in one corner of the cavern. Ancient Velothi computers hummed alongside primitive research equipment, all jury-rigged to study the plague that was destroying their world. The madness plague, Velthar explained, activating holographic displays that showed the horror above ground. Asterisk, it was created during the ancient wars thousands of years ago. A weapon designed specifically to target our neural pathways. It turns our greatest strength, our natural harmony and peace, into our greatest weakness. Asterisk. The holographic images showed healthy Velothi brain scans alongside infected ones. Dr. Kang the Jin studied them intently, her medical training making sense of the alien neurology. The plague is rewriting your brain chemistry, she said grimly. It's specifically targeting the neural centers that control empathy, cooperation, and peaceful behavior. Once infected, your people become incapable of anything except rage and destruction. Exactly, Velthor confirmed. Asterisk, we cannot fight it because violence is not in our nature. Even our military forces were designed for defense only. When the plague turned them against us, we had no way to resist. Asterisk, Dr. Yoon was already setting up her portable laboratory, connecting human equipment to Velothi computers. We need tissue samples from both infected and healthy Velothi. If this plague is species-specific, our different brain chemistry might be the key to developing a cure. Over the next several hours, the human and Velothi scientists worked together in ways that should have been impossible. Despite being from different worlds, different evolutionary paths, they found common ground in their shared desire to save lives. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kang Dejin ran the plague samples through her analysis equipment. This is incredible, she announced to the assembled group. The plague is trying to infect us too, but it can't get a foothold in our neural pathways. Brought up comparative brain scans on the main display. Look at this. Human brains evolved under constant stress, war, predators, natural disasters, competition for resources. Our neural pathways are already wired for aggression and survival. The plague literally cannot reprogram something that's already programmed for conflict. Velthar's crystal skin brightened with the first hope they'd shown in months. Asterisk, you mean? Your violent nature protects you from the weapon designed to create violence. Asterisk, exactly, Captain Choi said with a grim smile. Our death world evolution made us naturally immune to your ancient bioweapon. But the real breakthrough came 3 days later when Dr. Yoon made a discovery that changed everything. She'd been studying the interaction between human blood samples and the plague virus when her equipment started showing impossible readings. "Everyone come look at this," she called excitedly. The team gathered around her workstation as she explained her findings. "The plague isn't just failing to infect us, our immune systems are actively destroying it. More than that, our antibodies are creating compounds that could reverse the plague's effects." Belthar moved closer, its entire body now glowing with hope. "Asterisk, you're saying human biology could cure our people." "Asterisk, I'm saying human biology is the cure," Dr. Yoon replied. "But there's a problem. The cure compounds are produced by our immune systems in response to direct exposure to the plague. To mass produce enough antidote for 3,000 survivors, we'd need to enhance human immune response artificially." Dr. Kang Nagin understood immediately. Genetic modification. We'd have to alter our own neural pathways to produce the cure compounds in large quantities. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Captain Choi was the first to speak. "What are the risks?" "Unknown," Dr. Kong admitted honestly. "Be the first humans ever to undergo this kind of modification. It could kill us or change us permanently in ways we can't predict. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourselves for us," Velthor said, its voice filled with anguish. "You have already risked everything just by coming here." Sergeant Han Soyoung stepped forward without hesitation. "I volunteer, so do I," added Corporal Jang Daehyun immediately, one by one. All 5 humans volunteered for the dangerous procedure. Captain Choi looked around at his crew, people who had already risked everything to save strangers from another world, now willing to risk their lives again. "We all go through it together," he decided. "If we're going to save your people, we do it as a team." The modification procedure took place in a converted medical bay deep within the Valathi sanctuary. Using a combination of human medical technology and Valathi neural enhancement equipment, the 2 species worked together to perform surgery that had never been attempted before. Captain Choi went first. The procedure required connecting his nervous system directly to alien technology while genetically modifying his immune response. The pain was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Like having his entire nervous system rewired while conscious. He screamed. He couldn't help it. The agony was beyond human endurance, but somehow he endured it anyway. When it was over, his body was producing cure compounds at 50 times the normal rate. Dr. Yoon went next. Then Dr. Kong, then Sergeant Han, and finally, Corporal Jang. Each of them endured the same horrific pain, supported by their teammates and the desperate hope of the Valathi survivors. When it was over, all 5 humans had been permanently changed. Their neural pathways were enhanced, their immune systems supercharged. Their bodies were living factories for the cure that could save an entire species. Within 24 hours, they were producing enough antidote to begin treating infected Valathi. The cure worked by reversing the plague's neural rewiring, slowly restoring the infected being's natural, peaceful nature. "It's working," Velthor announced as the first test subjects began to recover. Asterisk, their minds are clearing. The rage is leaving them. Asterisk, but the humans paid a price for their sacrifice. The genetic modifications had changed them permanently. They were stronger, faster, more resilient than before, but they were no longer entirely human. Captain Choi looked at his hands, noting how his reflexes had become inhuman in their speed and precision. "We did what we came to do," he said quietly. "We saved them." Dr. Yoon nodded, feeling the changes in her own enhanced mind. Now we need to save the rest of their world. The real battle was about to begin. The cure was working, but saving 3,000 survivors was only the beginning. Above ground, millions of infected Valathi still roamed the ruins of their civilization. The humans knew their job wasn't finished until every last one was cured. Captain Choi Hyun-sik stood in the command center they'd established in the underground sanctuary, studying tactical displays of the planet's surface. His enhanced mind could process information faster than ever before, and what he saw wasn't encouraging. "The infected have organized themselves into armies," he reported to his team. "They're not just randomly violent anymore, they're strategically destroying anything that could be used to rebuild their civilization. Sergeant Han So-young, her movements now inhumanly quick thanks to her modifications, checked her weapons one more time, and we stopped them. We've got the cure, we've got enhanced abilities, and we've got 3,000 grateful Velothi ready to help us save their world. The battle for Kepler-4 for 2B began at dawn on the 14th day after their arrival. The humans led teams of cured Velothi warriors back to the surface, armed with weapons that fired the airborne antidote instead of bullets. It was the first time in galactic history that a war was fought not to destroy, but to heal. Dr. Yoon Gi-woo coordinated the medical assault from her mobile laboratory. Her enhanced intellect allowed her to track the plague's movement patterns across entire continents. The infected are gathering in the major cities, she announced over the communication network. They're trying to destroy the cultural centers, the libraries, the art galleries, the monuments. They want to erase their own history. The first major battle took place in the crystal city of Nalarthon, where 10,000 infected Velothi had barricaded themselves inside the planetary archives. The humans and their cured allies surrounded the city, then began pumping concentrated antidote into the air supply. Corporal Shang Daehain had rigged Velothi atmospheric processors to disperse the cure like morning fog. "It's working," he called out as the first infected Velothi began collapsing, their minds clearing as the plague retreated from their neural pathways. They're not fighting anymore. They're confused, scared, but they're not fighting. The pattern repeated across the planet. City by city, stronghold by stronghold. The humans and their allies reclaimed Kepler-4 to be from the plague that had nearly destroyed it. But the final battle would be the hardest. The last infected stronghold was the Velothi's ancient capital city of Kristara, where nearly 1 million plague victims had gathered in a twisted parody of their former civilization. They had turned the beautiful crystal spires into weapons, the peaceful gardens into battlefields, and the great libraries into funeral pyres. Sergeant Han So-young stood at the edge of the city, her enhanced senses picking up movement patterns that would have been invisible to normal humans. "They know we're coming," she reported. "They've organized defensive positions, set traps, even created some kind of command structure. This plague doesn't just make them violent, it makes them militarily intelligent." Captain Choi nodded grimly. His neural modifications allowed him to process tactical information at superhuman speed, and he could see the challenge ahead. "We can't just gas the whole city, or too many of them packed too tightly together. We need to go in on foot." The assault on Kristara was like nothing any of them had ever experienced. The infected Velothi fought with desperate cunning, using their knowledge of the city's layout to set ambushes and traps, but the humans' Deathworlder instincts, enhanced by their modifications, made them nearly impossible to surprise. Dr. Kong Vijin moved through the battle like a force of nature, her medical scanner in one hand and a cured art gun in the other. Every infected Velothi she tagged with the concentrated antidote began recovering within minutes. "The cure is working faster now," she called out over the sound of battle. "Their immune systems are learning to fight the plague." And the breakthrough came when Dr. Yoon realized they could use the city's own crystal formations as amplifiers for the cure. The crystals naturally resonate with Velothi biology, she explained as she connected her equipment to the city's central spire. "If we can get the antidote into the main crystal network, it'll spread through the entire city in minutes." But reaching the central spire meant fighting through thousands of infected Velothi, who seemed to understand that this was their last stand. The battle was fierce and desperate, with humans and cured Velothi fighting side by side against creatures that had once been family members, friends, and loved ones. Sergeant Han So-young was the one who made it to the spire first. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dodge through the infected defenders like they were moving in slow motion. She kicked down the reinforced door to the central chamber, her superhuman strength shattering crystal barriers that would have stopped normal humans. "Clear," she shouted as she connected Dr. Yoon's antidote dispersal device to the crystal network. Immediately, the entire city began to glow with soft blue light as the cure spread through every crystal formation, every building, every street. Infected Valathi collapsed by the thousands, but this time they weren't dying, they were healing. As the plague retreated from their minds, they looked around in horror at what they had become, what they had done to their own world. When the last infected Valathi had been cured, Captain Choi stood in the center of Kristara and activated his communicator. This is Captain Choi to all units. The planet is secure. Kepler-4 for to be is free. The celebration that followed lasted for 3 days. The Valathi, their minds restored, and their world saved. Couldn't find words to express their gratitude to the 5 humans who had sacrificed so much to help them. Velthor, now serving as the temporary leader of his recovering people, approached. Captain Choi with tears of liquid crystal running down his face. "You saved us," he said simply. Asterisk, but more than that, you showed the galaxy what your species truly is. Not destroyers, but protectors. Not conquerors, but healers. Asterisk. The news of humanity's first contact success spread through the galaxy's communication networks faster than light itself. Species that had dismissed Earth as a primitive death world suddenly saw humans in an entirely new light. The beings who had evolved in hell had chosen to become angels for others. Within months, alien vessels began arriving in Earth's solar system. Not invasion fleets, but diplomatic missions. 12 different civilizations reached out to establish contact, all wanting to meet the species that had answered a cry for help when everyone else had remained silent. The Galactic Medical Corps was established with its headquarters in Geneva, the same city where the mission to save the Valathi had been approved. Dr. Yoon Gi-woo, her body bearing the permanent scars of her genetic modifications, became the first director of interspecies medical research. "We're not trying to be the galaxy's police force," she explained to a gathering of alien ambassadors. "We're trying to be the galaxy's emergency room. When someone calls for help, we answer." The Valathi erected a monument in the center of their restored capital city. 5 crystal figures reaching toward the sky, perfect representations of the humans who had saved their world. The inscription, written in both Valathi and human languages, read, "When all hope was lost, the Deathworlders taught us that sometimes the strongest are those who choose to heal." Captain Choi Hyun-sik, his neural modifications making him something more than human but not less than one, stood before the first Galactic Council as Earth's ambassador. Representatives from dozens of species listened as he spoke words that would define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations to come. "We didn't come to conquer your worlds or dominate your peoples," he said. His words translated into 100 languages simultaneously. "We came because we heard someone crying in the dark, and we couldn't just ignore it. We came because no one should die alone when help is possible." The galaxy had changed forever. Where once civilizations had broadcast their final messages into the void, expecting only silence, they now had hope. They called for the humans, the Deathworlders, who had proven that the strongest warriors could also be the gentlest healers. And in the depths of space, humanity's ships continued to patrol the darkness, listening for any voice that called out for help. They had reached for the stars not with weapons of war, but with hands extended in friendship. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun, and somewhere in the crystal cities of Kepler-4 to be, Valathi children, who had never known the plague played in gardens that had been restored by the species their parents had once feared. They grew up knowing that when the darkness came, there were always humans watching the void, ready to answer the call. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's guardians, and the universe was safer for it. The end.